Chat Cave with Mike and Max.
Hello and welcome back to the Chat Cave. It is me, Max, as always, with the one, the only Mike McG from McG TV. We're chatting it up again.
Yep. We were our last chat cave was just a little bit of our reaction to the new trailer for The Batman, which again has been delayed.
Yeah, COVID strikes, 2020 strikes again. But that actually brought about one of the topic that we're going to talk about today, which is one of my personal favorite things about Batman. It's kind of its own character in a right, but we're going to talk about the Batmobile. I'm really excited.
Yep. And we were just talking a little bit before even getting on here, but how we would approach this. You were suggesting that we, maybe recall some of our favorite Batmobiles. I was suggesting, more of a tour of a couple of different Batmobiles. But maybe as we go along, I'll mention a Batmobile that you happen to rank as one of the top Batmobiles in
I'm
the
sure
canon.
We'll get through. And I mean, it's obviously everyone knows the Batman the Animated Series Batmobile is the best Batmobile, but
well, there goes the mystery.
That just goes without saying. I'm sorry. I mean, everyone knows. There's no point in beating around the bush. No, it's definitely an argument to be made for a lot of Batmobiles. Like the car has gone through such a wide variety of changes, like over time. Just because like Batman's been around for decades, so 70s Batmobile does not reflect like the 80s Batmobile at all. So it's gone through a lot.
I would argue it depends on what you're looking for in your Batmobile. If you're looking for the most tactically functional type of vehicle, if you're looking for just outlandish, ridiculous stuff, or if you're looking for something that just from a design standpoint looks crazy banana pants, it all depends on your personal criteria of Batmobile. Much like Batman himself, like it depends on what kind of Batman you like. If you like the more goofy golden age type of Batman, good old chum and everything like that, or if you're more of a
shortier Batman,
it's just there's so many different versions and so many different kind of origins for the vehicle, let alone the main driver of the vehicle that we're going to go through a little bit of history and then maybe remark on what are the ones that really stand out for us. I was just doing a little bit of some preliminary research and so forth like that, and that the Batmobile wasn't really there from the beginning. Like Batman in his debut in Detective Comics number 27 actually had a red car in his debut story. Apparently, like he didn't have an established, I guess, brand for his vehicles and his gadgets aside from it.
Yeah, this is like the true year one Batmobile. It's just a car.
Yep.
I wish they would do a little throwback to that in the movies. Like, you got to start somewhere, and you're not gonna wait to build the Batmobile before you're driving around. Like, you need to get around anyway.
Yeah. Actually, what predates, I guess, the actual coined Batmobile term was the Bat plane. That actually, I guess, kind of came first because in the early days, he did have a plane that did have more of a bat-like appearance that he used to fight the Monster Men from Hugo Strange, I believe. But the Batmobile didn't actually become a thing until, I think, 1941 for him. And the car's design kept kind of changing as we'd introduce the concept of his gadgetry and vehicles more and more until eventually we got, I think, what is considered by many to be the first like very classical Batmobile, like the one a lot of people will identify right away, which is that one, the one with the bat face,
the shield on the front.
Shield on the front, and the spoiler fin, which would come back in many ways, shapes, or form. But other than that, I can't remember many stories where it was as souped up as the Batmobile could get. Like I think it was just a car for the most part.
Yeah, like they didn't, like it's a chase scene, so like he'll chase the guy down, and maybe there'll be like a grappling hook or something, and obviously he'll like drive through a wall with the shield, like, and you see like cars just coming through, but yeah, it didn't achieve like maximum gadgetry just yet. Like this is just at the beginning of Batman, so it's like they haven't thought about the different things the Batmobile could do. The concept is just kind of coming out, so.
Yeah,
But it's cool. It's still a cool Batmobile.
yeah, absolutely. And I do actually love kind of that retro classic design. I've been kind of hoping like at some point, if we do get like, I'm sure we're going to get more like animated movies and things like that, or even animated series, that they do like kind of a retro throwback, and we do get that design for Batmobile to see like an animation or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, or like let's say like somebody ransacks the Batcave, and all he's got to knock the dust off of this old thing because that's all they left, like that wasn't destroyed, or something. Like that'd be pretty fun. I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
Or he's got to like piece together a Batmobile from different Batmobiles. That would be interesting.
Oh yeah, like an amalgamation. Like what happens when you're just left with, your bare minimum essentials and so forth. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that was kind of the standard sort of vehicle that he had for several years until the Silver Age, when things were becoming a little bit more, I guess, pop culture savvy, so to speak. And of course, we had the iconic 60s TV show, and that gave rise to a very particular Batmobile.
But I also think that James Bond influenced the Batmobile a lot.
Yes.
So like right when those things would be happening, you see the Batmobile start to change when people are like, "Oh yeah, the car can do so much more." Yeah, this is the quintessential. I think it's a Ford Futura body style, but like this Batmobile is a lot of people's favorites. It's got the big turbine in the back. Crazy futuristic styling. The cockpit is really awesome. This is a great Batmobile. It's not one of my like top favorites, but it is definitely like up there for honorable mentions and for iconic Batmobiles.
I of course remember it for the what was it, atomic turbine or atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed, right? That's what's probably best known. Like that was their saying, that was their catchphrase as they took off out of the Batcave. I know it definitely did establish like that one thruster in the back that a lot of the later models just harken back to all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the big jet engine, like you can't, it's a good idea, and there's just nothing better. Like they've tried, there's nothing better. So I mean, like, yeah, you can't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's that big old turbine in the back definitely has staying power.
And it was also during this point too, because they had their kind of moment with Batman being sort of a more camp figure, and then I know artists like Neil Adams, and we talked about Denny O'Neil and kind of how he revitalized the character. He brought Batman back to like his very basic detective roots, and actually a little bit of what you're talking about, like streamlined his operation so that he's working with like bare minimum. He's not working out of the Batcave anymore. He works out of mainly, I think, his penthouse apartment. I mean, still pretty good digs regardless.
Yeah, man, poor guy.
Yeah, sad. But his car, I believe, got scaled down too. I didn't find any images specifically for this one. Let me see if I can. But it's just like kind of a roadster. Maybe even a little bit with regards to what they're trying for in the Batman, except it's just a regular car. It's not like an actual kind of a vehicle that would necessarily stand out to you as being Batman's car. If I can find it here.
Yeah, and again, like it also depends on like the storytelling they're trying to do. Like if they're scaling back Batman, like the Batmobile will get a lot less toys and be less of a thing, just because like you can't have the help.
Yeah, and also during that time too, it was the 70s, mid 70s and so forth. The merchandising wasn't really there for Batman essentially because he'd only been on TV and in cartoons, but I'm sure at that time like mainstream like action figure lines and things like that weren't really a thing for him. That wouldn't happen until, the craze of Batmania in the 80s and things like that, I believe. But like, so this is a very just straightforward kind of design. Like nothing about this really screams Batman. But
no, this is one of those like Batmobiles that you can make a replica of and not get sued because it's just a car. There's specific like legal thing. If you wanna make a replica vehicle of any like independent any property, none of the features of the car can be making it not a car.
Right.
Like, so like all the features have to be functional, and then like it can be a car. So if the fun little thing, if you're trying to remake, so you can make the Ford Futura 1960s Batmobile, but you cannot make the 1989 Batmobile. Like if you're trying to sell them.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a lot of like hobbyists and so forth sometimes get a little bit of the legal flack, so to speak. but I think the only thing that really harkened it to being Batman was there was a little bit of a decal, I guess, on the front. You can't see it really in that artwork, but it looks like it looks like Batman's outline face a little bit with the eye slits and things like that. So it's supposed to give you a sense of like, okay, this is streamlined.
This is a lame ass Batmobile. We can go ahead and say it. This Batmobile sucks. Sorry, like someone's got to be the bottom of the barrel Batmobile. It just happens to be. At least it's a Batmobile. You made it on the list. Like
yes, it did. And like I said, that again was a kind of an established vehicle for a while until I want to say about the mid 80s when Frank Miller started doing his Dark Knight Returns stuff. And
oh my God, the Batmobile in that one.
Oh yeah. Let me bring this bad boy up because holy crap.
This is the craziest Batmobile there is.
Yeah.
Frank Miller, I mean, like, of course, it works in the story that he's telling.
Right.
The Batmobile's got like a full operating like room in there. Like, there's
it's a tank
to move around. Yeah, it's a full on tank.
Yeah, it's just a tank.
Oh wow, pardon my unprofessionalism.
Oh, it's okay.
But yeah, no, it is a full on tank with the treads and everything. It's awesome.
And this is where he introduces the concept of Batman, he will shoot you, but with rubber bullets.
Yeah, he's not going to kill you, but that doesn't mean he can't shoot you.
Yeah. He's got to feed into the gun lust a little bit, I guess. Even though the character...
this Batmobile is awesome. It's completely just... There's no way you could drive this thing around and like hide. Like, where do you park this to hide it?
Right.
Like how do you get away fast enough to duck the police and all the prying eyes? It's completely just 100% conspicuous, but I love it. This is one of my favorites.
I love the irony of it too, because later on in the series, when Gotham is basically going through 2020, and there's riots and things like that taking place, anarchy in the streets, and the mutants are like, "Now's our chance," and Batman's like, "No, you're gonna do things my way. This is the weapon of the enemy," and he holds up a gun. But meanwhile, I'm just like, dude, last issue, you were literally firing rubber bullets into crowds. Like,
yeah, but that was inside of the tank. Okay, he's talking about rifles and small arms. The tank is
totally
fine.
different. Tank is fine. Totally not hypocritical at all. Whatever. He's an old man.
Did I say you can't have tanks? No, I said you can't have rifles. I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah. Sure. I just
say that we're fine.
Yeah, tanks totally cool. You can dodge that ammo, sure.
Oh man, yeah, no, that's there's a fine line you can dance with Batman and the projectile weapons, but no, freaking Frank Miller stomped all over.
Oh, sure.
But it's great. I love that Batmobile.
And so after that, Hollywood was beginning to.
When everyone came down off the coke.
Yeah. Oh no, you could argue when the cocaine finally just settled in and became habitual.
Oh, okay.
Because Hollywood was starting to take note and be like, hey, Batman might actually be cool again. Wouldn't it be great to make some movies? So that's when, of course, artsy Tim Burton and Anton Furst came in with their take on Batman and Gotham City, and of course the Batmobile. And this harkens to, I feel, one of the most recognizable Batmobile designs in the canon.
Yes,
of course,
absolutely a thing of beauty. I love this Batmobile. This is another one of my favorites right here. The sliding open cockpit. I think this is a first for that. It's got the big old turbine in the back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sleek. It looks sweet. It's got guns.
Again,
like
I don't know if the rubber bullets though, like, because Batman straight up murders.
This Batman is lethal. Tim Burton's Batman is 100% lethal. But I love this design. I love this is it looks sort of like a F-14 fighter jet to me. I don't know, like it's got that same just kind of feel to it. But it's great. I love that Batmobile.
And it was aside from the sliding door, the gun, I mean, because those all kind of made sense within regards to the kind of Batman they were setting up. Mm-hmm. There wasn't anything really too gimmicky in that first movie, aside from maybe the shields.
Yeah, the shields were awesome.
And I love that they were done in that Burton, stop motion animation style, because I was like, oh, okay. But at the same time, I was like, the shields, from what I recall, all they did was they cover up the window, which, okay, that makes sense. They cover up the windshield and stuff. And then they cover up the hubcaps. And I always wondered about, is it just so no one jacks the tires, I guess?
I don't know. Jason Todd was definitely a character by this time.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. Jason Todd, second Robin, he was caught jacking Batmobile tires off of the...
So, fool me once,
Yeah, so...
That was never, ever a problem again.
But, I mean, there was nothing really too outlandish that first time out with the Batmobile.
Yeah, it had the grappling hook.
Because he had to make wide turns.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay, so there was that. But at the same time, like, sure, that thing, it looks like it would be a bitch to handle over, like, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe even 20 miles an hour. Like, I don't think there's... In real life, you wouldn't get much maneuverability out of that Batmobile.
No.
So yeah, sure, a grappling hook that fires onto like a conveniently placed like lamppost.
Even though that car would rip that lamppost straight out of the...
Absolutely, yes. The tensile strength would not even stand up to anything. Like,
but let's get totally serious about this Tim Burton movie.
Sure, about a flying dude and a guy who wears makeup over his makeup. So, and a bunch of Prince songs. Oh man,
God, such a great soundtrack.
The Batmobile does have like one of those memorable moments in the movie where it was when he first enters the Batcave with Vicky Vale, because Batman's just gaslighting Vicky throughout this whole movie. And so like it pulls to a very perfect stop. And you and I know what's out there in the dark beyond that stop. Nothing, a sheer drop. But Batman is just that precise with his parking. I just love that one shot where it just like slides perfectly into its spot essentially. And then he's like, watch your step, and turns on the light. And she's like on the edge of a cliff. I'm like, what a dick. What a dick.
I mean, if you're Batman, you gotta show off a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like odd flex, but I'll buy it. Like you get her heart pounding a little bit. She's more susceptible to suggestion.
Oh my God. Batman's having the equivalent of like the guy who really is trying to live up to his Tinder profile. Like, I promise this, and this. I better act on this, and this. Shit. The Batman Returns. They start to make it
much.
What's that?
It doesn't change much from the first and the second movie, does it?
Design-wise, it doesn't change much. There's a shit ton of new weird stuff that they put onto it.
Yeah.
Like, it is able to completely get elevated by
that central spire to turn around.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know how that would fit into the Batmobile because it ends up like lifting it off the ground. It looks like it's taller than the Batmobile itself.
Yeah, it's and they didn't bother with any cool like stop motion ching 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 ching.
Nope. It's just hydraulics. Just
yeah, no, that's a totally feasible Mach 5. They did it in Speed Racer. Good enough for Speed Racer. Good enough for Batman.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And then of course we talked about this in our Batman Returns discussion, but the egregious sin of he full on just left the blueprints at City Hall for the Batmobile.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess that all comes back in the Nolan movies where he just like has the plans just around for people to find. But
yeah, but I mean that may like, we'll get to that one, but
right.
It makes more sense for that one because
in this movie, Batman punches through the bottom of the Batmobile to rip off the
transmitter
controller device. So I'm like, what is the floor made out of? You can't just punch through like straight sheet metal.
Dude, he got a good deal on some PVC. I don't know. Framing. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. No, that to me was the most egregious thing because then anyone could just like could reversely like I could just punch through the bottom of the Batmobile and get in there.
But he had to be able to punch through it, Max. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to do that one thing that he didn't know the Batmobile could do, which is get really, really thin, just enough for that one alleyway in Gotham.
Yes. Like, see, look, this is how you know Batman prepares for everything. Okay, he's like, what if I'm traveling down this alleyway at 80 miles an hour? I've got no time to turn. Like, chink.
I would love to think that like Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne, out in Gotham doing his research one day, like with a measuring tape for that one particular alleyway. He's like, I've been doing this for all the alleys. This one is perfect. I got to remember this route. Perfect width.
No, like he measures all the alleys, but just to find the smallest one, so that when he builds it, it can fit through all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It makes total sense. And also like what is. Did Alfred come by with a tow truck or something to pick up those the 2/3 that fell off? Like, what happens to those?
Oh my God! Poor, because that's the thing too is it makes you wonder, like, because Michael Keaton Batman, he seems more like a supervisor than an actual hands-on dude. You see, whenever you're in the Batcave, Alfred's doing a lot of the technical stuff for the most part, I think. Sometimes Michael Keaton's Batman is doing stuff, but you got to think, like, this poor old man, he's got to do so much mechanical work.
Yeah, and that's why he's always bringing people into the Batcave. He's like, fuck you, I'm done.
Again, our love of Alfred, man. Yeah, maybe that's his kind of getting back at him. It's like, this is what you get for leaving 2/3 of your car out there, sir.
It took me 4 hours, sir.
The U-Haul was late, sir. I dropped it off too late.
He calls AAA. Alfred's out there waiting on AAA for 2/3 of the Batmobile.
I'm a collector.
Oh man, yeah, no, utter ridiculousness. They went nuts with the Batmobile in that movie.
Yeah, well, they went nuts with a lot of stuff in that movie, but
yeah.
And we'll come back to what they did further in that series of movies. But in between Returns and Forever, there was another Batmobile that came into play. This is the one you were, of course, singing the praises of earlier, the animated series Batmobile here.
Oh yeah, look at that car.
It stayed for this design throughout the run of the original show, and then in the new Batman Adventures, they did like a sleek black.
Oh god, that thing's lame.
Yeah, I didn't like it as much as I like this one.
Oh, this one's so good. I mean, like you see the pipes. It's got those sweet
Mhm.
rims. Big old turbine in the back.
Yep. Can you
With the-
imagine trying to maneuver this thing around the streets?
No way. There's no way. This is completely unpractical. The thing is like 35 feet long.
Yeah. Batman had to have designed like another type of license for operating this type of thing. Like all the Robins, Batgirl, everyone has to get their own specific license for this.
Why do you think all the sidekicks ride motorcycles? They're like, I'll just deal with the motorcycle.
Or even the plane. I mean,
yeah, for real. Like, no, I'm not driving that. The thing, like, it's that car. In actuality, yeah, it would. But I don't know that they even made cars in the '70s that are long as that car.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, you get the longest Cadillac ever built is not as long as that car, and yeah, it's completely impractical. But I love it. That's 100% my favorite Batmobile of all time.
It absolutely fit in well with the aesthetic they were setting up for that show, which was the Art Deco. It's kind of the future, kind of the past, wherein you have TVs and things like that, but they're all in black and white. You have computers, but they run on like huge towers and things like that. And this Batmobile fit in so well with that aesthetic. My only criticism of the Batmobile sometimes in the show is, depending on the animation studio, you'd sometimes see a very bendy Batmobile working around hillsides.
Yes.
Like you'd see it making turns and you'd notice a bend in the car.
Oh yeah. Snaking. It had snake power.
But I mean, it's a cartoon. Whatever. It's a stylistic choice. Fine. But
when your car is 45 feet long, Mike, it does. You have to give it a little snake, or else you can't make it around curves.
Oh man.
It's more like a train than a car.
Yes, there's more like there was an episode which harkened back to Batman Returns a little bit, in which the Penguin found out who the mechanic who originally built the Batmobile and sabotaged it and took control of the car. I noticed that immediately when I saw I'm like, oh, so this is kind of like Batman Returns, only done a little bit more seriously.
See what you did there.
I see what you did there. But it's in that episode we do see a flashback. I think the story was the mechanic, like he found out that his employer was like cutting costs on certain safety precautions in cars or something like that. So he was a whistleblower, and so his life was at stake, and Batman saved him. And then one winter, like Batman just pulls up to him in the beaten down like old Batmobile with the
shield one.
He had the face shield, so we did get to see it briefly in animation.
Yeah,
but basically it was just there for him to be like, this thing's a piece of junk. I need a new car. Can you do something for me?
Yeah, I really need a Lucius Fox here.
Yeah. And Lucius, even though he was in the animated series, was busy doing other things, I guess. Yeah. So he left it to the only other black guy to show up to do the Roadster.
Hey, what are you gonna do? There's only two in town.
I guess, apparently. But yeah, that was a cool episode, just to kind of see, like, the guy took pride in his work, obviously. Like and I remember very distinctly, like in the flashbacks, even though he's explaining this to the Penguin, like the origin of the Batmobile, he's like, but man, is that car like perfection? Like, it's just like he's beaming with pride.
Yeah, you're like, if you built the fucking Batmobile, like, yeah, you are allowed to pat yourself on the back. That is, especially that Batmobile. If you designed and built that thing, yeah, I'll shake your hand. That is, and salute. Give me a break. That is ridiculous. I love that thing.
Did you ever play with the actual toy, the toy replica of the Batmobile?
No, I never got that. Makes me sad to this day.
Mine is somewhere in my basement back in Ohio. The one feature I do remember, I think it has, what a lot of, superhero cars do, is they have the little thing that comes out of the hubcap that like is supposed to take out other opponents' wheels and things like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, a little spiky.
But also the compartment where you put the Batman action figure in detaches and it becomes like a flying vessel.
Okay. That's what's up.
I won't lie, I was a little disappointed when we never really got that in the show. We just got ejector seats, par for the course. But
yeah, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do, man?
And yeah, because usually the cartoon as far as the toy, which as far as the cartoon, so like usually like and or even still like the movie inspired the cartoon for one plot line. So like you'd figure they would have the little cool plane thing,
Mm-hmm.
just because they made it, so they could do it. But whatever. I guess you missed out on some things.
Yeah. Oh well. Whatever.
Still the sweetest Batmobile.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I will say that one does rank high for me. So no big surprise here. I'd say definitely that Batmobile, and then the Anton First design after that, just because that's a very iconic kind of design.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you
with
and
the red phone.
Yeah, you don't get the Batman animated series Batmobile without that one first and foremost. But I still love the animated one far more. It's sleek, streamlined, to the point, really good. You want to talk about Forever?
Yeah. I like all of the Schumacher Batmobiles suck so bad. They got neon stuff going on in them. No. I was not a fan of this. They're trying to do they got the big fin in the back. They brought that back. It's still got the turbine, but like all this frilly business they got in the front, you can see through everything. It's all ribbed. I just don't dig it.
But he'll get drive-through, Max.
Yeah,
I'll get drive-through.
I mean, he's got the cockpit's got to come all the way forward so you can go to get drive-through. But whatever, cool. I don't even think they do anything cool. None of the Schumacher Batmobiles.
There is one cool thing the Batmobile does. It goes up a wall to get away from Two-Face.
Which again, grappling hook technology.
Yeah, grappling hook and a thruster underneath the front part of the Batmobile.
It lifts up. Yeah.
But then I always laugh because I'm like, there's no way that car is just not going straight through the wall.
Right.
Once it hits.
Yeah. Wham! Yeah, just 4,000 pounds of swinging mass. Yeah, that's.
But again, the material for these Batmobiles may not be the strongest to begin with, which is why he's always being chased and is always afraid of getting into combat in the car.
Yeah, that's is that the one that the Robin steals?
Yes, the other car, sir.
Okay. Yeah,
the other car, sir. That Chris O'Donnell crashed one of them, I believe, on this movie. In real life,
okay, yeah.
he was going for a take and just ended up crashing the Batmobile.
Yeah, these cars are not actually drivable. They're like you're saying, they're not very maneuverable. It's not easy to drive a Batmobile around, and I absolutely believe that he crashed one. I would probably crash a few of them.
I can't imagine the interior of these cars being anything close to what the actual interior they show in the movies are, with computer setup. It's got to be the car from Death Proof, where you just got harnesses and everything like that, just so you don't die while you're driving these things.
Yeah. While you're trying to park it.
Yeah. But I will say, I mean, it at least it was consistent with the direction they were going for in those movies, which was, I guess they wanted to harken back to the 60s Batman show and just give it that weird Burton-esque type of feel. But at the same time, it's it's an aesthetic choice. Does it work? It depends, because the Batman and Robin one clearly lean more into the camp.
Yeah,
more into the
get worse and worse.
That one, you have an actual engine, or you can see the engine in the front of the nose there with the bat symbol and everything like that. Now this one, this is where it's we need to sell toys first and foremost.
Right.
They were design, schmedines, whatever. Sell us toys. So it's just okay, it's colorful. It's bright.
It's very shiny.
Very shiny. Things are spinning. I think they don't Batman doesn't even have a canopy.
Yeah, he's just driving full on roadster style, no windshield whatsoever. That's not the way to go. You can see your eyes. His eyes are exposed. That's
yeah, and
bugs.
Yes, getting bugs in your teeth. I mean, and also, in the reality of that world, his costume's probably not made from the strongest material to begin with, because we've seen in previous movies it can peel like ricotta cheese.
Right.
So you can't imagine like the amount of endurance those costumes have to put up with being hit by shit all the time. So imagine getting hit by bugs and debris and stuff like that. Ugh.
Yeah, he's probably gonna like oil it like an old baseball mitt or something.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the
Oh
thing.
my goodness.
Even the Adam West one had the sense to put up like a blast shield.
Yeah, there's a windshield. Like it's still you don't want to be. No, you just don't want to not have the windscreen.
Well, before we go to Tumbler Town, I thought I would take a brief moment here to, again, show off a little bit of another Batmobile design, animated, but this time from the well-known Batman Beyond. Because this is technically the Batmobile.
Yeah.
It's technically a car. It's just a flying car.
Right. Yeah. No, this one's cool. Like Batman Beyond's set way in the future. So this thing has just got a lot going on. It flies. It does. It can go on patrol mode. Batman like ejects from this thing all the time. So doesn't it camouflage itself?
I believe it can. Yeah. Much like his suit can camouflage and so forth. I do remember the interior. Like, I love the interior scenes because it's all tinted in red.
Yeah, it's all like combat mode or whatever. It's cool. That one's cool. Obviously, it's flying around. It's ridiculous. There's no way you can have that. But I like it. That one did not upset me like the Schumacher Batmobiles did.
You're right. But what always amused me about that one is because apparently Bruce has had that like in storage for 20 years.
It's old. Yeah.
It's technically a relic. Yeah.
It's not a relic. It's a classic. It's
classic. Sorry.
Yeah. It's.
I know Batman would take offense. He's like, they're collectibles.
Yeah. This, you don't. They don't just make them like this anymore. Okay.
Well, but also,
that's the fun thing about that bat suit too, is because he doesn't change it. He doesn't update any of the technology from when he quits being Batman, and it's still so state of the art that 20 years later, like it's still cutting edge.
That's true. Yeah, I believe it's implied as the series goes on that Terry does tinker with stuff and develops it a little bit more. So he'll improve stuff, obviously to suit modern sensibilities. And him and Bruce, I know there's an episode where him and Bruce are both working on the suit together, and that's like the framing device for the whole episode. Is like
Also, Bruce is like 2 times as big as Terry McGinnis when he was Batman. So some work really needed to be done.
Yes, to taper it down a little.
Yeah, we're gonna have to take this in.
I know we keep giving this show like the short end of the stick, but the Batman cartoon. I know you and I didn't really grow up watching that one necessarily. That wasn't really our Batman.
Yeah, that's the one with the Rastafarian Joker, right?
Yes.
The dance boxing Joker.
But
I don't even remember what the Batmobile looks like from this one.
And apparently neither does Google. So
all right. Maybe it's just best left alone.
Okay. Well, I mean, from what I understand, because that show has its fan base clearly, and and from what I understand, like it was a solid enough show to develop a following. But from what here we go. It's just kind of a knockoff of the animated series Batmobile, so nothing too diverse or nothing too different. But around this time also, we were getting revitalized Batman in movies, and this introduced us to the concept of the Tumbler, which stuck around for it was Begins and Dark Knight, right? And that was it.
Yeah, because it was
destroyed.
I don't know.
In Dark
right?
Knight.
In Dark Knight. So Dark Knight Rises, he didn't have it. He had like the motors, the bat pods, and the.
Oh yeah, that sort of harkened back to Batman Returns too. Like he'd press some buttons and then it got really skinny.
I think they did it better in this one.
Yeah, it made a little bit more sense. Yeah,
because like the whole thing kind of self destructs when he does that. So there's some explanation. Like he didn't send Alfred out to pick it up like 2 days later.
Can you imagine Michael Caine Alfred having to go get the rest of this monster?
He's like, why do we fall down, Batmobile? So we can pick ourselves up
again. This thing, though, I mean, when they were trying to base Batman more in the real world, and so, yeah, if you're a multi-billionaire who has a whole bunch of subdivisions and applied sciences is one of them, of course, you're probably working on something tactical for the military. And, yeah, well, so what the catch is with this one is that it would, I'm trying to remember Batman Begins,
it's a bridge building vehicle.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's got a giant turbine in the back, so it can do jumps over rivers and lay the original lines for the bridges and the engineers to build a bridge. So it's 100% ridiculous for the purpose that it's built. I think you'd want something lighter, and if the whole point was to do sick jumps, like
yes. Well, apparently not, because he takes them out for sick jumps.
Yeah, I mean, but like, you know, that this is again like you're saying, like it would just go instead of doing the things that it does, like it hopping on buildings and stuff like that, it would just go through the building. Like it wouldn't. There's no way that you can do those things. The thing is so massive and so heavy. The thing's got to be like 2 or 3 tons. It's utter ridiculousness to even think that they can move this thing around.
I do like the idea of, like, I think they did touch upon the reality of that, which is, man, this seems extra bulky for any kind of stealth operations or anything we would want to do with it in the military.
Yeah, and then,
thanks,
like,
but no thanks.
Like when he goes into quiet mode and the cops don't find him, like you just hear that freaking engine. Like, do you understand how big that thing is? It's probably a diesel.
Yes, that thing is guzzling. It's like
there's no way you don't know that thing is driving right next to you. There's like, give me a freaking break.
I do love that.
Even just the tires moving on the ground would make so much noise.
Well, I love the idea too. Like, you know, it goes into stealth mode. It tries to drop out of sight, even though it's on like you know, an illuminated highway and stuff like that. So you just look to the left and you see like, oh, gee, the entire like city view to the left has been blotted out by something. Right. I wonder.
Why is this darkness moving?
Oh man, I mean, it definitely was a different take, and if you were going to bring Batman into this real world kind of filter, that would probably be the way to go. I do love now in retrospect how all of his equipment was basically just like scraps that the military didn't want. They're like, yeah, well, we can't see the tactical advantage of any of this. And he's like, well, I guess you just need Bruce Wayne to understand how to make it tactical.
It also is like, this is not cost effective. You know, like it's just like, there's no way we can build these, you know, to do what we want them to do and still, you know, like pay soldiers. So.
Yeah. I think they do mention that some ways. Like, I guess, you know, the top brass said like something however $1 million per unit wasn't worth the equivalent of a soldier's life or something like that. So it makes sense that one guy would make use of it. Sure. And make the most out of it. But again, like I said, it does the whole eject thing for the Bat Pod. And he stays with that one into Rises, and then he gets the Bat, which
that thing was dumb. I did not like that thing.
It looks like a giant horseshoe crab.
Yeah, weird helicopter deal. I mean, I kind of like the idea of Batman using a small helicopter to get around the city. Mm-hmm. That would make sense for like the Bat plane, you know. Mm-hmm. But like, that thing I was just not a fan of, and you know, it didn't make sense. Because, you know, like, again, they're trying to do this more realistic Batman, and then, like, all of a sudden he's got this thing that just can't be.
Yeah. this thing that never, ever probably will exist in our lifetime.
Yeah.
But whatever. Knock yourself out. It can carry a nuke out of the city, so.
Oh, man, don't even get me started.
Oh, man, I did this thing on Facebook where, you know, I did that recut of the Batman trailer, but just with the Pete Holmes Batman stuff.
Yeah.
And it was fun revisiting those videos. I don't know if you've watched any of the actual videos.
I have. I've seen those college.
Where he's just like, by the way, no autopilot on this thing, so I'm straight up sacrificing myself. I'm outie. just ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, that movie was ridiculous. It deserves all the ridicule.
Before we get to Affleck, there is, of course, video games. And we were given kind of a taste of the Tumbler in video game form with Arkham Knight, the Batmobile from there, which is, again, just a straight up tank. And we talked about this one in a podcast as well, which is like, I don't know, for a plot device that has its own like mini games essentially.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, I enjoy this one, like in the game. Like I like the holding cell deal it's got in the back.
Yeah,
it's a Batmobile that does a lot of things, and it's got missiles.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a crazy ass Batmobile, but it's a lot of fun.
Its two modes are a lot of fun. I do enjoy the tank battles. I just wish there weren't so many of them in the game.
I was not sad about it because I'm like, it's the same stuff you'd be doing because it's still like a stealth mission. You're still doing stealth Batman things. It's all the same buttons. I wasn't sad about it. I was like, this is the only new thing that we have. Like this is the only piece of the game that has not been in the other two games. So,
did you enjoy collecting Riddler trophies thanks to the Batmobile?
Oh, that was the worst. The Riddler trophies is what got me. They broke me on Riddler trophies. There was so much in Arkham Knight that that was
my favorites were when it was like, okay, really has to make you think and coordinate really well, because it'd be like, okay, get this one grapple point, pull it out with a winch on the Batmobile, get out of the car, go to this specific place, and then remote control the car so that it opens the door. Then you got to throw a batarang through the open door so it hits the electrical wiring and therefore shorts the circuit. I'm like, man, Riddler put a lot of effort into these.
Yeah, it's the attention to detail that shows the love. That
shows the something, that's for sure. But I do love that in Arkham Knight, a lot of the alternate skins where other vehicles, like you can get the 66 Batmobile, you can get the Burton Batmobile, the Tumbler, and
which pretty much was like it's not too far off of the Tumbler.
Well, the big difference is like none of those have the tank mode. So like if you're in the actual gameplay or doing the main campaign or story, you are best off just sticking with the regular Batmobile because you never know when a tank battle is going to show up.
That would be cool if they came up with a different tank mode for each one of those things. Like,
can you imagine tank mode for 66 Batmobile?
No, but I want someone else to.
Jesus.
I don't know what that would look like, but I love it already.
Man. Oh, well, who knows? Maybe we'll get another. Oh, maybe that's what they'll do for that Gotham Knights game. Maybe at one point you'll get access to all the Batmobiles past.
Mike, I really I'm surprised that we were able to go this long on the Batmobile. I have another interview to do at 7. I thought we'd be done by now. Can we like two-part this or break it?
Oh, absolutely. We can two-part this. Yes. Okay. I think this is worth a little bit more discussion because we haven't even scratched the surface of like things you can do with the Batmobile. So
yeah, awesome. So can you get together on like, you want to do it next week or Thursday?
Yeah, let's do it next week.
Next week
we'll make it this is, listeners and viewers, this is going to be our first multi-part podcast here.
Oh yeah, like freaking our first cliffhanger podcast. This is great.
Because I'll tell you what, we'll wrap up with the newest interpretations of the Batmobile, and then maybe get into some other modes of transportation that Batman has taken in the past.
Yeah.
So
sounds good.
All right. Well, check out part 2 of our discussion on the Batmobile coming up soon. But again, thank you, Max. You've been listening to the Chat Cave here at McGTV. youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow Max on Twitter at 3geekspodcast and 3geeks.ninja. And what is that tagline that will take us out, Max, that I forgot last?
Same chat time, same chat channel, Mike McGTV.